The church was silent, thick with sorrow. Sunlight filtered through stained glass, casting soft hues across rows of somber faces. Officers stood rigid, hands at their sides, eyes burning from holding back tears. At the front, a flag-draped coffin lay still, and beside it, one figure didn't sit quietly. A K-9 officer named Ranger, a 6-year-old German shepherd, stared at the casket. His body was tense, his eyes filled with confusion and pain. Then, as the silence lingered, Ranger let out a sharp bark, piercing, sudden, and deliberate. One bark, then another. Not in mourning, but in protest. Something wasn't right, and it wouldn't take long before the world found out what he had seen. This is the story of a bond that transcended words, a loyalty that refused to be silenced, and how one dog's voice uncovered a truth too long hidden. Ranger had always been different. Smart, intuitive, fiercely loyal. His handler, Officer Daniel Reyes, often joked that Ranger was more partner than pet. Together, they'd work the streets of a small Midwest town, breaking drug cases, finding missing children, and protecting their community with a rhythm that only came from mutual trust. Daniel wasn't just a cop, he was a father, a husband, and a man who treated Ranger like his own. They trained daily, played every evening, and spent hours just sitting in the backyard watching the stars. "You're my shadow, buddy," Daniel would whisper during late-night patrols. And Ranger would nuzzle into his arm in silent agreement. But then came the call. A routine disturbance at an abandoned warehouse near the city's edge. Daniel suited up, Ranger at his side, just like always. But something about that night felt off. The radio was quiet, backup delayed, the warehouse, unusually quiet. Ranger hesitated at the entrance, ears back, body low. Daniel paused too, but only for a second. They had done this dance too many times. He gave Ranger the command. What happened inside would later be classified as an accidental fatality. But what really happened would take months, and a dog's unwavering loyalty, to come to light. Daniel never came out. He was found shot twice in the back. Ranger was discovered hours later, curled against Daniel's body, refusing to leave, his fur matted with blood, none of it his. The department held a grand funeral. Bagpipes played, flags lowered, speeches praised Daniel's service, but Ranger's bark, during the moment of silence, changed everything. To most, it seemed like grief. But to Anna Reyes, Daniel's widow, it was something else. Ranger had been oddly anxious since that night. He avoided certain officers, growled at visitors, barked every time someone mentioned warehouse. He even tore into Daniel's old uniform vest, clawing at one particular patch. Anna couldn't explain it, but deep in her gut, she knew Ranger was trying to tell her something. Desperate for answers, she contacted Ethan Brooks, a former military dog trainer turned behavioral analyst. He listened, he watched Ranger, then he asked one question. "Do you think Daniel's death wasn't an accident?" That was the spark. Ethan's preliminary test showed Ranger reacting aggressively to the sound of a particular officer's voice, Captain Harris, Daniel's direct superior. When they replayed radio logs from that night, Ranger barked furiously during one specific section, when Harris gave Daniel the go-ahead without backup. Something didn't add up. Ethan convinced Anna to request an independent investigation. At first, the department resisted. But a viral video of Ranger howling at Daniel's locker, refusing to leave his old patrol car, caught national attention. News outlets ran stories with headlines like, "Loyal K-9 seeks justice," and, "Dog's grief turns into evidence." Public pressure mounted. The FBI stepped in. Weeks passed. Then came the bombshell. A hidden body cam file was recovered from Daniel's gear. It had been lost in the original investigation. The footage showed Daniel entering the warehouse, calling for backup. Then, two shadowed figures, not suspects but officers, approached from behind. Daniel's voice, urgent, questioning, "Harris. What are you?" Gunshots. Silence. Then Ranger's desperate barking. It was a setup. Daniel had discovered internal corruption, officers stealing narcotics from evidence lockers, reselling on the streets. He was close to reporting it. They silenced him before he could. Ranger saw it all. The fallout was massive. Captain Harris and 2 others were arrested. A dozen cases reopened. The department underwent a full audit. And at the heart of it all, a dog who refused to forget. Ranger was retired with full honors. But he didn't fade into the background. He became a symbol of truth, of loyalty, of silent voices that still speak. A foundation was started in Daniel's name, offering support to officers and K-9 units nationwide, especially those investigating internal corruption. Ranger attended the launch, wearing Daniel's badge number on his collar. When the national anthem played, he sat beside Anna, eyes scanning the crowd, not in fear, but in quiet vigilance. Years passed. Ranger grew older, slower, but he never stopped guarding. On what would have been Daniel's 40th birthday, Anna sat on the porch with their daughter, a teenager now, leaning against Ranger. "He never gave up on your dad," she whispered. "Even when everyone else did." The girl hugged the old dog tightly. "Then I won't either. Because in a world where truth is often buried, it sometimes takes one who cannot speak to shout the loudest." Ranger didn't just bark at a coffin. He barked at a lie, and the world listened. And that changed everything.